A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 3, The Dream Warriors, The Novelization. Chapter 5. I want to talk about what happened to Philip last night. Neil looked around the room, wondering who would speak first. Philip's accident had affected the rest of the kids more powerfully than he had expected. None of them had seemed especially close to the boy in life, and yet they all seemed to be responding to his death as if it were some sort of personal insult. According to Max, every kid in the ward began crying and hollering at the moment of Philip's death. "He wasn't strong enough," said Kincaid, breaking the silence. The others nodded in agreement. "He couldn't handle it, so he got wasted." "He showed his weak side to the sorcerer," said Laredo, "so the evil one killed him." "Nobody killed Philip," observed Dr. Madalena. "He was a sleepwalker, and sometimes—" "Bullshit!" interrupted Kincaid. "The bastard murdered him!"
"It's true. Kristen can tell you,"
said Taryn.
"Kristen, can you take us to him?"
said Nancy. Dr. Madalena glared at Nancy and then turned her questioning gaze onto Neil. Neil just shook his head and shrugged in bewilderment.
"Kristen?"
repeated Nancy. "He's in the house," said Kristen, her eyes tightly shut. Joey began to tremble and buried his head in Kristen's lap. "He wants us to come." "Dr. Guinness," said Dr. Madalena, "I'd like to speak to you outside for a moment." Neil reluctantly followed Dr. Madalena outside. "I think we should increase their medication," she said when they were alone.
"No!"
shouted Nancy, stepping into the hallway uninvited to join in on the conversation. "And why not, Miss Thompson?" said Dr. Madalena with a condescending smile.
"Because it'll lower their defenses. They'll start dreaming again,"
answered Nancy. "Exactly," said Dr. Madalena. "That's probably all they need to release all this negative energy."
"Neil?"
pleaded Nancy. Neil glanced at Dr. Madalena for a moment and then turned back to Nancy. "Studies do show that we all have to dream sooner or later," he said. "It's dangerous not to." Nancy glared at him furiously and then stalked back to the group therapy room. Neil wondered, not for the first time, if maybe the woman he loved belonged on the hospital's patient list and not on its payroll.
"I think it's time you all knew who was trying to kill you,"
said Nancy. The time had come at last to tell the kids the whole truth. "Don't humor us," said Jennifer. When Nancy mentioned he wore a brown hat, all eyes were on her. When she mentioned the burned skin and the razors on his hand, she had their full attention. There was a complete silence in the room now, as Nancy took a deep breath.
"His name is Fred Krueger. He's tough, but we can beat him if we work together. I know because I've been there."
"What happened?" asked Kincaid. Nancy shrugged.
"I thought I killed him. Apparently I was wrong. And now he's stronger than ever. He tried to kill all of you as he killed the other so-called suicides. But you people are different. You have special powers in the dream world that you use to survive. You talked about your gifts a little,"
she said, referring to the session when Neil had hypnotized Kristen.
"Help us fight him,"
said Taryn. The others nodded.
"I'll try. But you have to be willing to dream again. Otherwise, you'll really go crazy. And you'll have won by default. We're all going to have to face him again. But this time, we won't be alone,"
Nancy explained. "Lead us into battle," said Laredo, speaking for the group. Nancy said that Kristen could take them to him. Without a word, the others linked hands. Kristen closed her eyes, and someone began to chant. 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, sang someone else, and then they were all chanting together, no longer surprised that the others knew the song that each vaguely recalled from his or her own worst nightmare. 9, 10. Never sleep again. All eyes opened and looked around. Nothing seemed changed. Thanks a lot, said Kincaid sarcastically. We're here, said a deep and resonant voice none of them had ever heard before. They turned to see Joey standing straight and tall, a smile of profound joy on his face. In the dream, I am strong, he said, suddenly doing a cartwheel across the floor. Laughing, he strode over to Kincaid and lifted the larger boy into the air with one hand.
In the dream, I'm bad, and I'm fire,
said Taryn. She turned away from the others, opened her mouth, and spewed out a great flame. Jennifer laughed and extended her hand in congratulations. When Taryn tried to shake it, her hand passed right through. In the dream, I can fade away, said Jennifer. It was Laredo's turn next to demonstrate his gift. He picked up a chair and pressed it to his chest. The chair turned into an accordion, and Laredo began to play a merry tune for the others as he danced for joy. Immediately, Kincaid rose into the air and floated over to Kristen. You brought us here? He asked, delighted with his gift of flight. It's my gift, said Kristen, to move in and out of the dream world and to take others with me.
You're all special in the dream. Together, you have the powers we need to beat Freddy once and for all,
said Nancy. We're invincible, boasted Jennifer. We are the warriors of the dream, said Laredo, his accordion suddenly changing into a sword.
It isn't going to be easy,
said Nancy.
I thought I killed the bastard years ago, but I was wrong. He's back, and it's going to take every ounce of courage we can muster to defeat him.
We're ready, said Kincaid, his feet just a few inches off the floor. Let the games begin, said Laredo. And then the door crashed open, and a few dead leaves blew into the room. Nancy and the others stepped outside to see a trail of slime leading around the corner of the corridor. And there, at the end of the trail, stood Freddy Krueger, a crooked grin on his leathery face. Well, well, if it isn't the Brady Bunch! Freddy raised his claw up in the air and swung it down at Jennifer. He seemed startled when the girl faded away and his hand passed right through her, throwing him off balance and sending him crashing into the wall behind her. He quickly staggered to his feet and rushed to Laredo. Again, his razored glove swooped down for the kill, but Laredo just reached out his arm to block the blow. Suddenly, the boy's arm was transformed into an anvil, and Freddy's blades sparked harmlessly as they crashed against the heavy steel. Without hesitation, Kincaid propelled himself into the air and locked his powerful legs around Freddy's thick neck. It was Joey who knocked the wind out of the creature with the hard punch to the stomach. Kincaid withdrew as Freddy staggered from the force of the blow, bewildered by the sudden strength of his opposition. Then Freddy saw Taryn standing quietly to one side, and a look of wicked joy returned to his eyes. Your turn to die, little girl, he said, stepping toward her. Taryn just smiled, opened her mouth, and set the startled creature on fire. The others began to applaud as Freddy wheeled around and around, trying in vain to escape the flames that engulfed him. He began shrieking in pain, his anguished cries suddenly turning into the piercing sound of a fire alarm. And then they were in the group therapy room again, just as Neil and Dr. Madalena rushed back inside. "Who set off that alarm?" asked Dr. Madalena, glaring suspiciously at Kincaid and the others.
"Don't look at them,"
said Nancy with a half-smile.
"They've been with me the whole time."
Dr. Madalena stared at her angrily and then left the room without saying another word. Neil looked at Nancy, shook his head slowly from side to side, and started to follow. "See you later, Doc," said Joey. Neil's jaw dropped open as Joey and the others strode boldly out of the room. "What the hell's going on?" asked Neil.
"What do you mean?"
asked Nancy with feigned innocence. "The kids," said Neil. "They seem different." Nancy smiled.
"Healthier?"
she suggested. "I don't know. Maybe. All right, yeah, they seem healthier." Nancy paused just a moment for effect.
"I took them on a field trip. Kids love field trips,"
she said, and then walked out, leaving Neil to stare after her in complete bewilderment. Jennifer was having trouble sleeping since Kristen went home. The two girls had known each other only a few days, but a bond had been formed in that short time that was unlike any relationship Jennifer had known before. Kristen was the only one who really seemed to understand the hell that Jennifer was going through since the dreams began. Talking to Kristen, Jennifer sometimes felt as if maybe everything was going to work out all right in the end after all. If only she had met Kristen a few days earlier, Jennifer thought, maybe she never would have doused her clothes with lighter fluid and threatened to set herself on fire. "Got a light, Max?" she asked, encountering the burly orderly as she prowled the corridor. "Sorry." Max smiled and shrugged his broad shoulders. Jennifer's request for a light had become sort of a running gag between the two of them. Sometimes he was tempted to offer her a match just to see what would happen. Max sensed a kind of inner strength in the girl that made him doubt that she would ever really take her own life. "Anything else I can do for you?" Jennifer shook her head and sighed. "Can't sleep," she said. Max wished he had a nickel for every time he had heard that complaint over the past few months. "Why don't you go log a little tube time?" he suggested, nodding in the direction of the TV lounge. "It's after hours," said Jennifer. Max smiled and gave the girl a conspiratorial wink. "I won't tell anybody," he said. "Thanks, Max," she said. Jennifer had always enjoyed falling asleep in front of the TV at home, and it was one of the things she missed since being admitted to the hospital. She took a few steps toward the TV lounge and suddenly stopped. "Something wrong?" asked Max. "No," said Jennifer. After their encounter with Freddie, Nancy had warned the kids to stay together for their own safety. For a moment, Jennifer considered going back to the room and getting Taryn. But no, that would be silly. Her roommate was probably fast asleep by now. Besides, what possible harm could there be in watching a little late-night television? Jennifer walked down the hall to the lounge, tuned to an old movie, and settled herself comfortably in front of the set. Almost immediately, she felt herself become deliciously drowsy. She closed her eyes for just a second and leaned back in the overstuffed armchair. She opened her eyes a moment later to find that the picture had disappeared. "Damn," she said, getting up from her comfortable chair to adjust the set. Patients weren't supposed to touch the controls, but Jennifer didn't want to disturb Max after he had been nice enough to let her watch past curfew. She fiddled with the fine-tuning and impatiently spun the channel control knob, but the screen remained blank. "Damn," said Jennifer again, smacking the side of the TV with her tightly clenched fist. Just when she was starting to feel all cozy and sleepy, the damn set was on the blink. Jennifer tried to pound the side of the television again, but this time a hand came out of the side of the TV and clenched her fist in its iron grasp. Jennifer tried to pull away, but it was of no use. She was about to scream when a second hand reached out from the screen. its razor-tipped glove raised high in triumph. "Oh my God!" whispered Jennifer, as the leering face of Freddy Krueger filled the screen in horrible close-up. "Here's Freddy!" he announced, laughing maniacally, as his two extended arms tightened their grip on the terrified girl. "Help me!" she screamed, but she knew, even as she opened her mouth, that no one would hear her. "We've got a wonderful show for you tonight," said the face on the screen, a thick stream of drool oozing down its chin. "It's a delightful little program we like to call You Asked For It." "Oh, what's the matter? Aren't you excited? This is your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch." With that, Freddy's powerful arms jerked Jennifer forward, ramming her head through the TV screen with tremendous force, crushing her skull as the thick glass shattered and the picture tube imploded in a sparking, hissing mess of brain, glass, and glowing phosphors. Max found Jennifer's body a few seconds later, her bloody legs dangling limply from the front of the set. He managed to call downstairs for help before rushing to the bathroom to puke up his guts. Okay, Slashaholics, this has been Chapter 5 of A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors by Jeffrey Cooper. Of course, this is my favorite chapter so far of the book, one of my favorite parts of the movie. I just love Jennifer's death scene. I love the whole, "This is your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch." I love it. My favorite part. Besides that, I really did enjoy this chapter thoroughly, even the differences from the movie. You know, Kincaid's a bit different. He's sitting here flying around. That's pretty neat. Love seeing or reading about Freddy getting his ass kicked like that. I could just picture the look of surprise and bewilderment all over Robert Englund's face if he was, playing Freddy, if that's the way the scene played out. And I really enjoyed that. It is a little disappointing that Neil's not as involved in the story at this point like he was in the movie, but I feel like that's going to change going forward. I know they took a lot of stuff from this original script that this novelization is based on. I can't even talk. And that's, what became the movie we actually got. So I'm hoping that Neil gets a little more involved in the story like he did in Dream Warriors. I'm really hoping for that. Madalena, man. Dr. Madalena. If there's a character I wish could get like a hardcore death, it is her. But I'm not seeing it happening yet. Perhaps that'll change before the story finishes out. She's so condescending and arrogant, just like she is in the movie. And I'm betting that some of the stuff from the movie is going to be in the book, that it's kind of her fault. Putting everybody to sleep, making them dream and all that. Which leads to their deaths as we go forward. So I'm really looking forward to that. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's chapter. I want to thank Cecilia Spears for voicing Nancy, and Bonanza Jellybean for voicing Taryn. "I'm bad." I just love that line from the movie, and I'm glad that she recorded that for the book as well. Let me know in the comment section what you guys think. I hope everybody's being safe out there. I know it's a boring time being stuck at home, and I hope that these books bring you just a teensy bit of entertainment while you're out there self-isolating and quarantining or whatever you want to call it. We're going to get through this. I really believe we will. I want everyone out there to be super safe. I love you all. Don't want to lose any slashaholics, so please be careful. Keep your hands clean. Don't touch your face, and stay 6 feet away from anybody. And until next time, this has been your friendly neighborhood 80s slasher librarian saying, thanks for listening, and welcome to prime time, bitch! Pleasant dreams!